My command for you to obey today, the one that I found, is to take the Lord's Supper. We know that the Lord's Supper is a fulfillment of the Passover feast. Jesus celebrated Passover, and in the midst of observing Passover, the night before he was betrayed on Thursday when he would be arrested and then crucified on Friday, we know that Jesus celebrated the Lord's Supper with his disciples on that Thursday evening. And in that Passover celebration, Jesus interrupted it and gave us the Lord's Supper. So we see the Passover being celebrated by the Israelites a second time, the second time it was observed. And I think a good command for us to realize, we talked about baptism yesterday. Today, we're talking about the Lord's Supper, that you should take the Lord's Supper. And actually, we'll be taking it the first Sunday in October. So it is coming up. You can begin to prepare yourself to take this sweet and wonderful ordinance. You're only baptized once, ideally, after you are saved. And I guess we could say that you are biblically baptized only once. If you were baptized a second time, the reason that would be is because the earlier times you had decided, and your pastor, whoever that may be, whether it be me or somebody else, had decided that previous baptism wasn't biblical. Maybe you were baptized before you were actually saved. We believe in believers' baptism, that we should be baptized after we are saved. Perhaps you are sprinkled. And as Baptists, the way we understand the Bible is that is not a biblical baptism. If you are sprinkled, that is not in obedience to the command. So you just had water sprinkled on you. You didn't really go through the ordinance of baptism. That's why we submerge everybody. Baptizo, that's the Greek word, means immerse. Jesus, when he was baptized, he went down into the Jordan, came up. So you only are biblically baptized once. And then, but the Lord's Supper, you get to take over and over and over again, remembering how Jesus died on the cross for your sins and rose again. So we see on the verse 3 of chapter 9, on the 14th day of this month at twilight, you shall keep it at its appointed time. What are they supposed to keep? They shall keep the Passover. This is remembering how God saved them from Egyptian slavery and how the death angel passed over their houses when they killed the lamb and put the blood on the doorpost of their door. And then we see, so there's the command to keep the Passover. And then we see the example to follow. They kept the Passover in the first month on the 14th day of the month at twilight. They did what the Lord asked them to do. We should obey the Lord. When he tells us to do something, we should do it. Verse 6, there's a problem, though. There were certain men who were unclean through touching a dead body. They are ceremonially unclean, and therefore were not able to take the Passover meal. So they were ceremonially unclean. They didn't do anything morally wrong, but they did something ceremonially wrong. And then if they would have taken of the Passover while being unclean, then they would have been doing something morally wrong and disobeying the Lord. So the Lord spoke to Moses that he then gives a way that they can actually take the Passover meal. So they had this problem, and then he explains exactly how they how they should take the Passover. And then we have the final example to follow in verse 18, that at the command of the Lord, the people of the Israel set out, and at the command of the Lord, they camped. So the way this worked is that God was leading the people of Israel through a fiery cloud. It was a big pillar of fiery cloud up in the sky at nighttime so they could see it, and it was a cloud at daytime. And so the cloud would then move when it was time for them to go. And so we see that the people of Israel left when the cloud got up and moved, and they did it at the command of the Lord. And when the cloud stopped, then they set up the tabernacle, and then they had their time of camping. We looked at this in Sunday school, our first Sunday in September. So if you don't have a Sunday school literature book, grab that book, do a little bit of reading in that section. And I pray that has been a blessing to you. And we'll see you all in the next video.